based on this scenario, the Leafs would play Columbus, and it would be a 5-game play-in, and it's probably a coin flip, right? It's probably
more
a coin
pressure
flip.
or less pressure? That feels like so much pressure on Toronto.
More pressure. They got to beat Columbus.
Well,
that'll be what people in Toronto will say.
They're expected to win. We had Jody. I was on the lunch today. We had Jody Shelley on, and Jody talked about their health. Obviously, Seth Jones will be healthy. Atkinson's healthy. They've had a few guys that were dinged up, and then they had some guys that came up and played very well, and some veteran guys who were not having great seasons, but. They had the exact. If they didn't have the exact same amount of points as the Leafs, they were close. Like I think they're within a point or something.
Yeah, they were right there with them. Yeah,
right there. Like it like, to your point, Brian.
81 each, 70 games each.
It's a coin flip, but I would argue the pressure's on the Leafs based on expectation, and the Leafs didn't have a great season. That's the thing. Like Columbus was the most injured team in the National Hockey League, and they found a way to do it every night. They're great goaltending, and their metrics. We had Mike Kelly on as well. He said some of their underlying numbers, especially defensively, they were unreal. They were number one in the National Hockey League. But I would argue the pressure would be on the Leafs.
Absolutely.
I'm expecting them to win that.
They may not be officially favored even in Vegas. I mean, the odds makers may make it close to a pick 'em. And I don't know how you handicap any of these rounds once we get there.
How does Vegas do this?
That's tough. It's going to be really tough. They're going to be sweating big time in Vegas. But I think based on the market, based on the Leafs running into Washington and then Boston in back-to-back years, like two superior teams, tough teams, losing in Game 7s, the money, the focus, the market, the star power, everything would lead to the Maple Leafs having to find a way to win that. Like if you lose to Columbus, and Columbus, they kind of got theirs last year. Like they beat Tampa, and that was a big, triumphant moment for them. I believe first time in their franchise history winning a playoff round. So not that they don't want to double down on that. Not that they wouldn't be thinking, hey, we can get through Toronto and then roll the dice and see where we go here. Of course, they're not just going to hand it to anybody. No one would expect that. But the Leafs should be more desperate. The Leafs should feel like they've got more talent because they do. But they'll also have more pressure, for sure. They may not feel it because if they're in Vegas or Edmonton or whatever, they're not going to be feeling it the way they would if they were building up for a series here in Toronto.
Yep, you're right. But I think they have to know. And again, we're not even going to be considering this the first round of the playoffs. Is it technically? It's not, right? It's going to be it is going to be the first round because you got to get there, and this is to further your playoff career. But it's the best of 5. You can get a hot goaltender. Like that's one thing that
Columbus.
Well, Columbus had 2 of them. Like that Korpisalo was having a seat, and then Elvis came in, and Elvis is a goalie. Like he's a little scary for me because I think he's got more upside than Korpisalo. And there was a time there where he was getting on a heater and he was jumping into Foligno's arms at the end of games. It was a big show with him, eh? Like this guy, he's a good goalie. And that's, in a best of 5, you have to think a goaltender's going to steal at least one game.
But there's the real focus of pressure.
Exactly.
Like Freddie Anderson, he's got to be better.
I agree.
And he's had bad starts. He'll be coming off. It'd be like the start of a season for him. And he hasn't always been great to begin the year.
Yeah.
And it'll be like 5 months off.
Right, Johnny.
You're right.
Right. Yeah. Here's
in October.
Okay. Here's
Game 7.
Here's a Jerry's percentage. Jack Campbell will be starting a game.
Oh, it won't matter if he does then.
I don't.
There's no way.
Scary.
No chance. 0%.
Well, I hope 0%. But I guess the only way that happens is if he is a mess and they're down 2-0 in the round.
I guess.
And they're like, I guess we have to try Jack here because he looks good in practice. I don't know. I mean, that would be the ultimate desperate move, and that would basically indicate you're dead before you've even started.
Right.
But you bring up a good point, Johnny. That will be the biggest point of anxiety for Leaf fans is Freddie is known for bad starts, bad Octobers, and he doesn't have a great history in clinching games either. So if you get to a Game 5 in this scenario, what are you getting? I mean, he might give you a great Game 3 and 4, but I don't know.
I was just going to say, he's going to be fine at 3 and 4, but don't worry about 1 and 2 and 5. Like,
1, 2, and 5, a bit of an issue.
You know what? We don't know, though. That's the thing. Like, that's the great unknown is the body of work is thrown technically out the window in what you did last year because it's going to be so long between games. It's a summer. It's an off season. So, I said this the other day. Leon Draisaitl just won the points, won the Art Ross. Like, there's no guarantee he's going to step on the ice and win it in the playoffs now, because it's a new season. And a guy who was having a dud for a season, all of a sudden Bobrovsky looks like, the Bobrovsky that Florida decided to give $10 million. That could be the difference in an organization going on a long run.